Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Dean Laster. My channel is going to be talking about ways to make money both online and offline, grow businesses, and lead a healthier lifestyle. So basically today we'll be talking about the 5 ways that no one is really covering that you can absolutely crush it on, doing Uber, Lyft, and ride sharing. Ways that I've discovered that have worked for me. I just moved back to the US last July from Israel. I had lived here for like 13 years before, and I was basically looking for something that I could do in between figuring things out. A friend of mine suggested doing Uber and Lyft. I gave it a try. When I first got started, I made some mistakes, things were spotty, I wasn't making money consistently. So as I was doing it more and more, I started to discover hacks, unexpected things that I could do to strategically maximize my earnings, accept certain rides, reject others, go on certain routes, avoid others. And I want to share these nuggets with you today. Ride sharing for me was a temporary, fantastic. I was able to make some cash that I really needed. Share these with you today, and hopefully you get some value. So let's get started. It's going to be like a slide format, so it might feel a little instructional, but I want to cover the main points and give you guys the most value. So let's move on to the 5 ways to. Hey guys, so as I introduced, I want to show you the 5 ways that I've used both the Uber and the Lyft app to crush it and make the most money in the least amount of time. Let's get to it without further ado. Highlights of me doing Uber and Lyft. Basically, on New Year's Eve and Halloween, I averaged over $100 an hour. Going from surge to surge, a lot of short rides, as I'll cover in like the 5 ways. But I made $1,000 in about 8.5 hours on New Year's Eve. Was still able to meet a friend for a couple hours, and it felt amazing, honestly. And then I consistently made over $1,500 per weekend. Working some Fridays, sometimes a half Friday, sometimes a Friday evening, and sometimes even a full Friday, depending on how much money I wanted to make and how much time I was willing to be on the road. And then I found ways to maximize promotions and surges. Following my strategies and my blueprint, you will see that there are ways to avoid putting too much mileage on. Working smart and being strategic. And these are the ways that I've been able to, squeeze the lemon and get as much money out as I could. So I'm going to cover the first way that you absolutely, which is don't auto-accept rides. Auto-accepting rides is in Uber and Lyft's best interest. It means you're the puppet, you're going from place to place. Now, during times when it's not busy, it might make sense. Who cares? You want to get as many rides as possible, make as much money as possible, then okay, maybe you should have the auto-accept. But during peak times, peak demand times, it absolutely does not make sense for you to do that. So basically, when you don't auto-accept rides, which in Uber it's typically when you're on the go, you hit settings below and you turn off the auto accept or you stop new requests. That's the way to do it on Uber. It's kind of more on the bottom, and with Lyft it's more at the top, this like pink bar which you just slide. During peak times, I'll accept the ride. As soon as I accept it, or halfway through, or if I'm stuck at the red light, I will turn off the auto accept. I will refuse the next ride. Why is that so important? Because when you have plus 10, plus 15, even plus 7, even plus whatever it may be, you have this extra money sitting out there. You're in a demand zone. So for example, if I'm in Miami Beach during a busy time and it's plus 10, surges, I want to grab as many of these surges as possible. As soon as I'm done with a ride, I don't want to drive 20 minutes, but if it's 5, even 7 minutes, even maybe 10 minutes, if the surge is nice, I will drive to the surge or demand area to try to capture more money. So it allows you to look for the highest and best opportunity as soon as you're done with your ride. You are able to squeeze more money out in less time. I am a huge believer, especially during peak times, you want short local rides. So you want to do a 5-minute local ride. I'm in Miami Beach. I'm grabbing a ride, going locally, dropping them off, grabbing another surge, doing another local ride, and I keep churning. You keep churning the surges. You keep collecting, and it's just a beautiful thing. So you squeeze more money out in less time. Now, a lot of times, it also allows you to switch between apps. So a lot of times, let's say I do an Uber ride, a few minutes before I reach the destination, I will start to look at Lyft. Maybe Lyft has a surge. I'll see where the surge is, and as soon as I am off the ride, I will switch. Sometimes, if I'm ballsy, even 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes before, because with Lyft, like you're in a zone and the zone keeps working, versus with Uber, you have to drive to you have to actually pass the dollar amount. Actually, sometimes Lyft is easier because you can collect while you wait, versus Uber, they actually force you to drive to the demand zone, and maybe by the time you reach that zone, the extra is gone. So that can be annoying sometimes, but basically you switch between these apps. You even sometimes turn on, if you're in the demand zone, you already turn on the other app, you already collect it, and hopefully you time it right, and it's 2-3 minutes, and by the time you drop off the customer, you already have another ride ready to go with a surge. Now, the key thing, again, as I mentioned, you call the shot. You're in control. You go after the surges when you don't auto accept the rides. If you auto accept the rides, it's just going to lead you to where they want to lead you, where the algorithm is leading you, but you're not in control. So do that, and I guarantee you'll make more money. The second, which is kind of a related point, and most people will not suggest this to you because they don't have, honestly, the balls to do it, but you reject and you cancel rides. That means you actually, even after you've accepted a ride, you cancel it. And why is that actually beneficial? Because you make more money. So yes, it's gonna hurt your metrics a little bit, but this might be, honestly, against the guidelines, but I haven't had any issues, and it's allowed me to make thousands of dollars of additional money. So basically, how does this go? So as I mentioned, you want to jump from surge to surge. You want to stay local, especially when demand is high and surging is all around you. What I do is, and I did this on New Year's, and that's how I made $1,000. I didn't make it by auto accepting rides. I didn't make it by doing any ride that Lyft or Uber gave me. I did it by doing the exact opposite. Let's say I would get a local ride in Miami Beach, and what I would do is I would call the customer, say, "Hey Tom, it's Dean, your Uber driver. I was just wondering, are you staying local?" And then if they answered yes, just say, "Hey, here in Miami Beach, are you going to Brickell?" I would get an understanding, right? I knew, let's say if it's in Miami Beach, most likely it's a 10-15 minute rides tops, depending on traffic of course, and different different things. But if it was going, for example, if he told me he's going to Coral Gables 30 minutes away, it's like, hell no, I'm not going to be stuck for 30 minutes. Get away from the demand zone. I'm going to cancel the ride. So I would just say, "Hey Tom, I'm so sorry, Coral Gables is out of my, I'm trying to stay local. So I'm just going to reassign this ride, and I wish you all the best." I would just cancel the ride, typically put not safe to pick up. I mean, in the end, it's gonna hurt your cancel rate, and you don't necessarily want your cancel rate to drop. I mean, to go up much above 20%, 20-25%, because then it starts to slow down your bookings. But a lot of times Uber has these streaks. So as you're doing these 3 streaks, most of the time you're doing them back to back, so it's gonna even out the cancel rate. You wanna do this at the peak time, especially the peak time. Friday evening, peak Friday, Saturday evening, Sunday brunch time, other times that are in high demand, holidays. If there are great surges, then do short rides, prioritize short rides, local rides that you can get done quickly and collect these premiums. So you want to call every single ride that gets accepted, and it's a little bit, you have to be a little diplomatic and ask the right question, but you want to find out where are they going to. And sometimes if they're disingenuous and I get there and I slide the start the ride and it's going 20-30 minutes away, I have in some instances, believe it or not, told customers, say, hey, so sorry, this is a bit further than I expected. It's 25-30 minutes away. I need to be somewhere here in the area, so I really can't help you. And a couple people slammed doors on me, but you know what? In the end, I made more money, and to me, at least, that's what counted. I wanted to make the most money possible. So it brings me also to these 3 streaks. The streaks of 3 rides that especially Uber has. Times, you make extra, whether it's $12, $15, $18. Those are great ways to maximize your earnings, especially if surges are not so good, or you're able to maybe sometimes make a small surge, do local rides, and then collect these 3 streaks. Now these streaks, they run from, let's say, noon to 3 or 3 to 6. So you want to, and a lot of times they're continuous, right? So if you just go by the book, you do these streaks straight on, right? So you'll get a first ride, which is local. The second ride might take you to 30 minutes away. And then you might have a local ride wherever you are. Let's say you go to Coral Gables and you're stuck in Coral Gables, you get another local ride. Great, you've completed the 3 streak. But in order to keep going, now you have to drive all the way back for 30 minutes. So you're in essence losing valuable time getting away from the demand zone. So how do you work around that? Again, you call the customers, and what I just do is, if my second ride is going to Coral Gables, I put not safe to pick up. Again, it's a little bit of a lie. I put too many riders, but basically Uber will not count it against the streak, and maybe sometimes I'll have to reject 3 of these people back to back, and it's happened to me. But I'm able to, in the end, stay in the demand zone, get these rides, and then I'm not losing time back having to drive 15, 20, 30, 40 minutes, sometimes back to the demand zone. And I'm able to capture more streaks, and especially because there's a cutoff time. Let's say if I do this correctly, and it's, let's say, 3 to 6, and I start my first streak, and these first 3 rides take me, let's say, an hour. I'm at 4 p.m. Second takes me also an hour. Third one takes me only 45 minutes because I was strategic, right? And then I can squeeze in a 4th streak because I'm able to start the first ride before the 6 p.m. cutoff, and then I get an additional $15. And you know what? That adds to your earnings. That's significant. Again, in the end, at the end of the weekend, that could be the difference between $1,400 and $1,700. So that's a big difference. So I literally call every single ride and ask them where they're going to. The goal is, especially during the surge time, is to do as many local short rides as possible to collect the additional surges, especially if the average surge is $10 plus. So that's really the way to go. And yeah, so I want to also cover, actually I'll do that in another slide. The third point, which a lot of you might not expect, is I personally avoid the airport like it's the plague. I don't like the airport. In most instances, it's not worth it, because one, the airport is typically outside of the demand zone. So, in the case of Miami, it's about, give or take, 15 minutes, I guess, from the downtown area, but it could be closer to 20 minutes from Miami Beach. So again, you're losing 20-25 minutes sometimes going back to Miami Beach. So it's a big opportunity cost, because as I mentioned in the previous point, you have to go back. You have to go back to the, to the demand zone afterwards. So you lose a lot of time, opportunity cost. You have to wait in this waiting zone, sometimes with 50 cars ahead. So let's call it at least 20 to 30 minutes, which doesn't include the time you have to get there, and it doesn't include the time you have to get back. But now the exception is, let's say it's not so busy and you got a ride from downtown Miami to the airport. Sometimes Uber will give you a ride, or Lyft will give you a ride without making you wait in the waiting area. And that ride actually leads you back to the demand zone. In that case, by all means, keep riding. Don't keep it on auto accept. Get the ride. I mean, you go to the airport, you have it on, you grab another ride, that other ride gets you back to the demand zone. Maybe there's also a small little surge at the airport of a +5, a +10, which makes it definitely more worth it. Then great, then do it. But in most instances, if you have to wait in the pool, it's not worth it. The exception is if you work during the week and it's a non-surge area time, and maybe there is a surge at the airport or a short waiting time, then go for it. But otherwise, I personally don't like it. You lose a lot of energy while being idle. The most important point is that you miss surges and opportunities where the action is. So I'm not in Miami Beach, I'm not collecting the streaks, I'm not collecting the extra money. It's an opportunity cost, so it's not that great. Which is very important is, in the end, you have humans in your car, right? And those humans, you know, are people with different interests, personalities, jobs, careers. From my experience, you know, and I do a pretty good job. I did a pretty good job of building rapport. Only about a fourth to a fifth of riders tip, right? Some instances I've gotten it down to a third, but you know, because Uber and Lyft add a premium on top of the rides are more pricey for them than what we actually end up collecting. So basically, you want to build rapport with your passenger, because your passenger, when I've built rapport, when I've had a good conversation about what they do or just about life, beyond making the ride much more pleasant and enjoyable for you, you're much more likely to get tipped. So when I have a good conversation, I'll get a $10 tip, right? I'll get a $5 tip. But if I don't, then it's much harder, right? And at the end of the weekend, if you do a great job and you get an additional couple $100 in tips, that's a huge difference. Again, that could be the difference between $1,500 and $1,700. So you have to take that seriously, because again, these are human beings, people with personalities. Beyond making connections is always beneficial, because it's a great networking opportunity and you never know where it could lead. I exchange social media details, Instagram handles, LinkedIn's, with people that I have a good conversation with, because you truly never know. That person is a consultant and you want to get in consulting and they could connect you. Maybe you also do painting on the side and that person ends up owning a home and actually needing a painter. So during the weekend you do Uber and then you've gotten yourself another customer for your painting job, or for your painting business. Or maybe they own a company and they need to hire some sort of employee and you can join, whether it's part-time or full-time. You never know what doors might open to you just by having a good conversation. And again, getting these tips never hurts and always, adds to your bottom line. So just making a connection, initiating conversation. So what brings you here? Have you enjoyed Miami? Have you enjoyed wherever else it may be? What's your passion? What do you do for a living? Whatever you want to structure, whatever way that's authentic to you, just making these conversations is always benefit. Now, the last point is to keep promotions top of mind. So challenges, especially on Uber, are an excellent way to make extra money, especially on weekends. So Uber on weekends, a lot of times will have a ride challenge. So if you complete, for example, in Miami, it's 70 rides, you make $560 extra. So let's do the math. If you do 70 rides and the average ride, let's call it, is $7, okay? We're gonna be pretty conservative, okay? Because we wanna have these local short rides So maybe some you do medium rides, but all in all you keep it medium to short to medium. So let's say $7 a ride, 70 rides. So already right off the bat, with 70 rides at $7, it's about $500. At 560 additional, let's call it, that's already 1,050, right? Now, if you are smart and you piece together a few of these streaks, these 3 ride streaks, right? And let's say you do another 7 of those, and the average on the 7 of those is $15, right? So that's another $100. So now you're already at $1,150. And then in point 4, you made a good connection, you made a good conversation, and you've gone tipped another $150. You're already at $1,300, right? For the weekend. Now, if you're also strategic and you go for where the demand is, and sometimes you've captured some streaks on Lyft, you did five additional rides when the streaks were 5+, right? And you made another, let's call it another $100 on Lyft even. You're already at $1,400 just with the Lyft. And then if you do it on Uber as well, and again, I'm being conservative, you do another $100. So you're already at $1,500, right? Anything above that is just you being even more strategic and doing a better job. So this is why points 1 and 2 are so important. You don't auto accept the rides, right? You go for where the demand is, you capture the additional money, you keep these 3 streaks alive, you keep churning these streaks, squeezing in another streak by the cutoff time. That will maximize your earnings. You reject and cancel rides. Again, nobody's gonna tell you this, but you cancel rides. You call somebody, they tell you they're going too far, you cancel it. It's not worth it, right? You stay local, you maximize the rides, you keep velocity working to your advantage, capturing surges, capturing streaks, right? The more rides also, the shorter, sometimes you'll get tipped more often. So again, these are maximizing your earnings, and for me, that's how I've been able to average over $1,500. I just gave you the math of how I've been able to average over $1,500. Obviously, the promotions, the challenges are a huge deal, and without the challenge, but typically when Uber doesn't run a challenge, they'll have more surges, so it goes hand in hand. I was able to make $1,400 working a day and a half on a weekend where there were a lot of surges, but there was no challenge. So typically, if they take one thing off, they'll put another thing on. So that's why also it's important to keep an eye on Lyft, because certain weekends I was able to make only $1,300 from Uber, but I was able to make $500 from Lyft. That happened to me a few weekends ago. So keeping that in mind is a huge deal. So the main goals really, are to make the most money in the least amount of time with the least wear and tear. So if you're strategic and you don't auto accept rides and you go to where the demand is and you do local to medium rides, you will put less mileage in your car. You won't go from Miami to Fort Lauderdale, back to Miami, back to Coral Gables, back to whatever, because that's, the Uber and the Lyft app, if you just have it on auto accept and you're not strategic, you will just drive from like a ping pong from place to place, click, 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 but you'll spend way too much time on the road, not collecting premiums, and you will not maximize your earnings. And then lastly, some bonus tips is I made about $2,000 to $3,000 additional dollars just signing up for bank accounts with sign-up bonuses, connecting my Uber earnings to them, using sometimes even DoorDash, both actually to make some money, but also to order food for myself. So if you take a break, right, especially if you're during a surge time, you don't want to be off the road for long. If I know I'm going from downtown Miami to Miami Beach, and I know a few cafes or restaurants I already like, I will order the food. So by the time I get there, I only have to drive a few minutes. The food's ready. I pick it up, right? If there's a huge surge or it's a good demand time, maybe I'll wait with the food. I'll do a little extra work for half an hour and then eat. But maybe if there's nothing going on, I'll eat right then and there. Or maybe even because of the Lyft demand zones, I'll go to the Lyft demand zone, capture money, and while I wait for the next ride, I'll have a bite, right? It makes, perfect sense. because you're being strategic, you're maximizing your earnings, because at the end, you want to start off strong, you want to get to a Sunday, you know, being above, if you want to reach 70, you know, 70 rides by Sunday, you want to be at 50 plus, you know, by Sunday, because you don't want to be, you know, driving until midnight on a Sunday. You want to be done by maybe 6 p.m. or something. So you want to be very strategic, and so that helps. And then also using gas saving apps and credit card points, you know, to reduce your gas bills. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I try to be as comprehensive as possible. I've learned a lot of tips and tricks, but these are the 5 best ways to absolutely crush it doing Uber and Lyft. Please do hit the like button and subscribe. I will have a lot more videos about ways to make money, both online and offline, business tips, healthy living tips. So I hope you tune in, and it was a real pleasure.